First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out to commemorate the placing of this historical mark today. I'd like to give a little history and memories in connection with Bell's Funeral Home. My grandfather, Wilmer Brown, was a painter for Mr. Ed Bell for at least over 30, 40 years. I guess New Ellen can tell you more about that. My Aunt Ardella, Uncle Turk, my cousin Granville Johns, lived down the 1000 block for over 50 or 60 years. And this block was Poplar Street, for those of you who don't know. This was originally Poplar Street until Stephanie T. Bolden had it renamed years ago. My family is originally from the East Side. Either Bell's Funeral Home buried them or Sammy Congo buried them. They're related, so you're going to definitely have to see one or two of them when you die. I especially like to thank former council member Darius Brown for initiating this action when he was in office. It was an honor to pick up where he left off, to see this day come. I'm grateful to everyone else who worked very hard to help me make this happen, especially Ms. Pat and Herb Ending from the planning department. Ms. Pat, could you raise your hand? Because I bugged you every day. I also want to thank Mayor Kisuke for his support, as well as the support of my colleagues on City Council as we recognize this rich history of Bell's Funeral Home. Next, I'd like to have the Mayor, Mike Kisuke, come up and speak, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. These remembrances are very important for us, and I'm not sure everybody understands why. I never knew the Honorable Council Member and distinguished businessman, Mr. Bell. But I know we're here because we want to memorialize a life well lived, and it's important for us to recognize that life. But more so, it's important that this life is a part of our story. It's a part of the story of the folks who lived on this side of town, and it's important that young people remember that story. And too often, we just forget the richness of the pioneers and the business people and the public leaders who went before us, and young people are deprived of that history unless we tell them about that history. And so I love doing this. I've hardly known anybody that I've stood before and pulled that marker back for, but I feel like I know them because the story's so rich and we get to tell it, and all of a sudden I feel like that's who we are, and that's our history. So I just have to tell you that I was so impressed to read of the life of Edward Bell. We know family members, the rich family history continues, and I hope it never, ever leaves our city. Thank you for letting me share this day with all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, I'd like to invite Council President Hanifa Shabazz.
Hello, neighbors. It's really great to be here for this moment to recognize, we called him Uncle Ed. You know, I grew up right around the corner on Sherman Street, and these streets are very, very familiar to me. And I see individuals that I grew up with who we all lived around here, and the great fun that we had on the east side. And to be able to see persons like Uncle Ed walking down the street real fast, on his toes, you know, because that's how he walked. You knew he was about doing something. And we had so many role models in our neighborhoods. You know, we had, you know, not only did we have, you know, Uncle Ed, but we had Dr. Smith, we have Dr. Brown, and we had individuals. I mean, even the Congos, they were icons for us in the neighborhood growing up here in the city. So to be able to see those individuals, knowing that we can aspire to be whatever we wanted to be, our children need to continue to know that the roots of what our neighborhoods are based on are individuals just like Uncle Ed, and how he started, you know, the first black-owned funeral home. And look at all the other prosperous funeral homes that have come from his tutelage and from his setting that foundation. And that's what we must do. We must share the skill, the talent, the gifts that we've been given, so that our children will have a foundation and be that example of what, you know, of what success looks like. So I applaud the Bell family, who I call family, my sister there, and Brother Lou. You know, that I'm glad that we are able to make this and recognize such a great man in Mr. Ed Bell. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I know you have another engagement. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Sammy Congo up here himself. The Honorable Mr. Congo.
I just don't know what I would do if I were not here today to share with all of you the fact that anything that Sherry and I have accomplished today was from this residence right here. I was born in the funeral home down in Newark. Back in those days, we had midwives, so if I say I've been in the funeral business all my life, that's pretty true. But I wish I had the time to describe and share with you what Uncle Ed did for me, and share with you how much I realize how and what he accomplished with what he had to accomplish with. The resources that we have were not there for him. And so he struggled and worked with and was quite a man that got along with everybody. You know, when you think back in those days, the business that he had the business that ranged from down to, I think, Smyrna, out to the Conowingo Dam, up to Chester, down in Elkton, all down through there. Uncle Ed covered that and was there because he was such a religious church man. He had a quartet that was called the Diamond State Quartet, and I knew the members of that. He was famous for doing things and supporting churches and supporting everything. People say that I'm an entrepreneur, but I could no way, without the resources of today, accomplish what he did back in those days. So I feel honored that I could be here and share with you the respect that I have for this man who used to sit on these steps right here. And everybody knew to go by and see Uncle Ed. And he kept the same smile all the time. So today is a special day. It's like Mayor Kisuke said, it's the heritage that we must keep in our community and the values that Uncle Ed started since 1930, I think. So don't leave the city. Keep the values here. And I will say this, that we are honored also to have such a mayor that we have today who is trying to bring this city back to what we all want to have, so that it can be a wonderful place like some of the big cities where we can go to plays and nice dining rooms. And it's going to be wonderful a few years from now, so we got to keep our eye on this guy, because I am glad that I'm a part of what he's trying to do here in developing this city. And I don't want to put too much focus on this guy because I want to keep it on Uncle Ed, but I do respect him very much. But again, I'm going to have to leave. I had a prior commitment. I'm not just talking and walking away. We have to go up in Chadsford, Pennsylvania to another meeting. But Uncle Ed is something that we must keep his image high and honor him some way on this street. This is, I know it's called Clifford Brown Walk, but we got to do something that allows us to remember the icon that he is, was, and will always be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Congo and Cousin Cherry. Thanks for coming. Next, we're going to have Bishop Aretha Morton speak, who's been on this east side for a number of years.
Kind of chilly. This is awesome. It truly is awesome. I lived right around the corner, 406 East 10th Street, for 65 years. And I really didn't want to leave, but it's something I had to do because of conditions. But I, too, thank God for Mayor Kisuke bringing the bringing this. It's almost a plum pleasing pleasure to to say that I live in the city of Wilmington. This funeral home is almost like Howard High School. You know, you say, where you go to school? Howard High. Where you be funeralized? Ed Bell. It just that simple. I'll never forget, I might have been maybe 13, 14 years old, and somebody in the family passed away, and they were laid out in the front parlor. But there was a remains on this side, and there was nobody sitting with them. And my mom wondered why it took me so long to view who I was going to view. But it took me the length of time that it did because I went and sat with the person that didn't have nobody. I just sat there with them and what have you. There was nobody coming in, nobody going out. But I sat there with them as if I was a member of family, because everybody on the east side is family. Amen. I have no idea how I ended up on the west side of town, being from the east side. But I tell you what, don't mess with the east side, because you'll find out where I'm from. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. That's an honor. That's an honor to hear you say that, Bishop Morton. And I'm glad that I want to piggyback off what she said. I see Bob Cannon here and some other East Side members. I see Desi, Net Bell, and Bonnie and everybody in the back, the Bell family. Oh, I see, oh, okay. Yeah, I see everybody back there. Yeah, I remember my sister telling me, and Bob and them telling me how they used to come over here and there used to be a black wreath on the door, and all the funerals was held right in this funeral home. And I went in there one day for somebody's viewing. I was like, how was all the funerals in this small place? And they said they were. So next I'm going to bring up Beverly Bell, say a few words, then we'll finalize with Llewellyn.
Amen. First, I give honor to God, who is our everything, and it is such a privilege to be here, to stand in front of you and to stand in front of 909 Poplar Street on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I came into the family, and I tell you, when I met Uncle Ed, the first thing he called me was girly. And through all the years of knowing him, I don't even think he knew my name. He just called me girly. But through the years, I met a man who loved the Lord, loved his community, and loved his family. I've heard stories for years about this man called Uncle Ed. Uncle Ed's door was always open to whomever needed him. He was there for them. He had a righteousness about him to be able to stand in spite of the community, of what the ups and downs were. He stood as a man of value and a man who wanted to make sure his community was safe. So on behalf of Uncle Ed, Aunt Eva, and the Bell Funeral Home, I thank you for coming out to share in this wonderful occasion that's long overdue, because we honor the man who did so much for our community. Thank you, family, for coming. Thank you, friends. And thank you, everyone within the sound of my voice that knows that this is 909 Poplar Street, East Side, Wilmington. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Next, I'd like to say hi to Lydia. I see you back there, Lydia. I couldn't get my thoughts together. She's one of the matriarchs to the Bell family. So good to see you out here. Next, I'd like to acknowledge some of my colleagues, Councilman Turner and Councilman Adams, for coming out. And next, I would like to bring Mr. Llewellyn Bell up himself.
I'm just grateful to have everyone to come out to honor my Uncle Ed's historical marker. Sammy sort of took all the information that I would have given you. Primarily, the family lived within 5 blocks of each other, all the brothers and sisters of the Bell family. They believed in sticking together, helping one another in good times and in bad times. Uncle Ed used to call me Well. And I used to say, Uncle Ed, I'm 37 years old, you're still well. You know? And he was just a good man. I really can't jump into anything else. Beverly spoke well of him. He was a family man. He loved his family, as you've heard. And I am now the patriarch of our family. So that puts a lot of, thanks a lot. But it's just an honor. He was a humble man. He didn't like to be recognized for anything. He didn't want plaques, he didn't want this, he didn't want that. He was just Ed Bell. If you let him go to a racetrack or play his numbers, he was happy. You know? And that was his thing. He had very little things in mind to say, I want to go here, I want to go there. He was not like that. He was very simple. I thank each and every one. Thank you, Mayor, and all the dignitaries. And may God continue to bless you and keep you.
Overdue. Wow, overdue. Let's get a photo.
Can we ask you to return?